Welcome, Red Eyes members. Thank you very much for joining us. It's good to have you here with us. We are, of course, talking with Dr. David M. Jacobs about basically some of the history of the UFO phenomena in general, some of the things that David has been involved in particular in regards to abduction cases, how the hypnosis is being done, how his methodology has been developed throughout the years, and kind of the progression of things here. And basically, what you mentioned here in the first hour, David, was that what you've discovered so far is that it's being run like a program and so forth, and that is obviously something I definitely want to go into. But maybe just shortly, is there some abductions or abductees that you've come across that, through the method of hypnosis that you've developed, you've discovered that they are, whatever they're talking about, it's not a genuine abduction experience. They might have some psychological issue. There might be that they're just lying, etc., etc. A number of things, possibilities that we have there. Have you stumbled over any people like that at all?
Well, it happens every once in a while. The problem is that the abduction phenomenon is like the society in general. And so you're going to get a lot of normal people, and every once in a while you're going to get some people who are not so normal. And they might be abductees, they might not be. I try to filter out people with serious psychological problems as much as I possibly can by having people fill out a questionnaire, by talking with them beforehand, by doing all sorts of different things. And in general, I'm successful, I think. Unfortunately, every once in a while, somebody who is mentally ill will slip through. I can recognize it fairly quickly. I've had a couple of people, one in particular recently, who had a personality disorder which did not manifest itself until a long time after we started doing sessions, and ever since that time, I've been sort of plagued by her. And it's been a very difficult event for me and for my family. Oh. But it's unusual when that happens. Yeah. It's extremely unusual. I haven't had anybody come and tell me lies yet. When they do, we know of there have been a couple of instances of this in the history of the abduction phenomenon. I can think of two off the top of my head. And both of them were people who wanted to write an article about the subject. There you go. And they pretended to be an abductee. In other words, there was a reason. There's no reason to come to my office and tell me a lie and then let me believe a lie and go on about their business. What's the point?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and for the reasons that you mentioned before as well, there's no advantage in that sense to bring that into your life, unless, I guess, what you said before, if you're coming from the perspective that you're trying to I guess make a buck on a testimony or a false witness or whatever it might be, make up a story, right, basically, right, to sell some books or whatever. But yeah. But it's now that, go ahead.
You can't really tell them sometimes, because sometimes people who are writers are also abductees, and they'll write an article about it anyway, you see,
right?
And yet they're abductees, and so they'll talk about their own experiences, and it's a different kind of situation.
Yes,
but it is a mixed bag. 95% of all the people I've worked with, 99% are just average, normal people.
Yeah,
who are abductees. And that's good enough for me. And but you know, it's like that in the history department where I teach at Temple. You know, there's some people who are sort of nutty and some people who aren't, and all that too.
Sure,
and it's like that anywhere. That's right. What I was talking about, sort of in the last hour, was the fact that when abductees come forward, you know, it's an act of bravery for them. They're desperately afraid that people will find out that they're seeing me. They're afraid that people will in some way denigrate them for being an abductee. And if they go forward in the public with this, that's what does happen.
Yeah.
The problem here is their personal lives and the privacy that they want and the privacy that I give them. But the other problem here is the scientific community. In the scientific community, which would be primarily a psychological community, the psychiatric community, or any other I mean, it's such a unique area. There's no particular area within science or social science that can lay claim to the abduction phenomenon. And so it's just different. So it's interdisciplinary. But with the academic community and with the scientific community, it's all downside studying this subject as well.
Yeah.
In other words, if they decide that they're going to look into the subject, immediately their quality of their mind is called into question by their colleagues. If they are graduate students and they want to write a dissertation relating to the subject, if they find that the whole thing is just nonsense, is just stupid, it's just crazy people, or it's something that's folkloric, or it's something that's religious, or whatever it is, they will never get a job in academics, even if they find out that it's negative, because everybody knows that automatically anyway. What kind of dissertation is that? You're just telling us what we already know, you know. And if they find that something is going on, it's really anomalous, it's unique, it's different, there's never been anything like that, they'll never get a job teaching in academics. So they'll never get a job in science. It's never going to happen because they themselves then are crazy. It's just nuts. I mean, so right now we find ourselves in a situation in the United States where there's not only less scientific and academic interest in the subject than ever before in the history of the UFO phenomenon. There's more aggressive hostility to the subject than ever before in the history of the phenomenon. It's not just that they're passively not interested. It's that they are aggressively hostile to it. And having been in the subject, you know, for 45 years, I can say absolutely that I have never experienced anything like what is happening now, and it's very, very, very discouraging. There's a lot of reasons for it that I can point to if you want. A lot of them just has to do with the whole rise of government conspiracy theories and the whole the involvement with the Roswell situation and abductions. Yeah. Abductions. People say they're abducted. It's totally crazy. So there's reasons why that, but regardless of whether there's reasons why it's still unscientific and non-academic for people to be aggressively hostile to it, and not to look into the claims and let the evidence take them wherever they're led. And if they're led into just mind games, okay, they won't even try that. So. The problem here is that the number of abduction researchers has been shrinking. It was never very large, but it's been shrinking in the U.S. and all of us who are doing it are getting a little bit old, a little long in the tooth, as they say, and we don't see a large body of younger people, younger academics or scientists who are coming up to do this kind of work. It's very, very distressing, and I can understand it. People want to have careers, and if you take up this research, you're not going to have a career.
Do you think it's wrong to try to do this kind of research and be in the scientific environment, so to speak, or try to get, I don't know, grants for it, or try to, you know, do it that way? Would you say it's better to stay out of that world altogether, but continue research on your own if it's possible, specifically, you know, financially and so forth? I understand that is a problem, but do you think it's better to stay outside of it and just continue the research no matter what the scientific community is doing?
That's the way it works in the United States is you pretend you have no interest in the subject whatsoever until you get tenure. That is to say, until the university grants you job security and they cannot fire you.
Yeah.
When that happens, you can continue to study the subject. If you do study it, otherwise it's got to be done on the side in secret. Nobody knows about it. You have to do your